Right.
Yeah.
So let's get personal. Sean, what was Tommy like to coach?
He was an absolute dream, if I'm honest. Why? Because it was almost a perfect storm. I think Tommy, we've talked about this before, but we desperately wanted to sign Tommy. I did a lot of research on him, and he was the type of player we needed and we wanted, and it was the right time to get him because his curve was going up. He wasn't quite in the Irish first team at that point, so there was a chance. And it was between us and Leicester Tigers, I think, Tommy, yeah?
Yeah.
And I remember going to the interview with him and his agent, Ryan Constable, and I came out of it and I thought it went really well, but I turned to Lynn Jones and I said, mate, we're up against Leicester Tigers. They were the big club at the time. But to his credit, and hindsight does play a part in this, yes, but it was a perfect storm because Tommy was really good for us, but I'd like to think we were really good for Tommy because we were on an upward curve as well. We had a good squad developing, and I'd like to think he grew with us because he maybe learned a few different ways. He learned a different culture. He then was a regular in the Irish team. He was clearly first choice and at top of his game for us. And he wasn't a guy that just accepted things, and as a coach, you want that. You want feedback. So he would come with ideas. He'd question you if there was something he wasn't quite sure with. And you know what? As a player, he was fantastic. Complimented us lovely. And on top of that, he's a bloody nice guy, which is always nice as a coach. So, and he said to me once, after I'd finished and after he'd finished, he said, it wasn't like so much he was player coach. He said, you were like my mate. And I know at times that we disagreed, and I know at times he probably thought, oh, this guy's been a bit of a dick, but that was my job. But for him to say that meant that not only did he enjoy his rugby, but he enjoyed his time, and that means a lot.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I don't know if I meant to follow up on it, but Sean's right. When I moved to the Ospreys, I was 24 and I was struggling to get into the Irish team. I felt I was playing for Ulster, but I couldn't get myself into that Irish team. And 13 of the Ospreys side were part of the side that won the Six Nations Grand Slam as well. So I knew I was joining a really strong team, but I knew that if I wanted to get into that team, I was going to have to really up my game. But I'll never forget that first pre-season. It was like learning a different game again. Sean was teaching us about the blitz defense, and I used to mess it up so many times. And you had Shane Williams, you had Lee Byrne, you had Gavin Henson putting their arm around you and trying to explain where I was making the mistakes. We had somebody there filming me passing. I had to do 50 passes off my right hand, 50 passes off my left hand, and it was filmed at the start of pre-season. And then we did it again halfway through pre-season and at the end, and you could see the improvement. And those sort of things was a real kick up the ass for me. And the other thing as well is that the first day I arrived at the Ospreys, they were having a barbecue, and they all came out to meet me in the car with a bottle of Budweiser, and I knew I was joining a good squad then.
Nice.
Yeah. So when you're looking to take that next step, are there certain parts of your game that at the time at age 24 that you'd been told in Ireland, you said, listen, we need you to do this, we need you to do that? Was there homework that you were looking to do somewhere else, or was this something you discovered only after leaving?
I think I knew I needed to improve in a lot of areas of my game, Andy, but at that stage, I had just missed out on the World Cup 2 years before that. And I was probably trying to concentrate too much on improving on the things I wasn't very good at instead of actually focusing on what I was good at. So playing in the old Ravenhill Stadium at that stage in the middle of December, January, February, standing on the wing, waiting for the ball to come to me, you're wasting your talent. It was actually Mark McCall who was the one who said to me, your talent is getting the ball in hand and taking people on. And whenever I went to the Ospreys, Sean said to me, look at Shane Williams. He touches the ball 20 to 25 times a game. He turns up at scrum half, out half, he's never on the wing. So So there was people there to model my game on, and the biggest thing is to try and impose myself on the game. It's easy to be a winger and just stand out there and maybe take the glory pass and score in the corner. But actually what happened to me with the Ospreys was that I was encouraged to give it a roving role and just turn up anywhere on the pitch, because your strength was trying to take people on and looking for mismatches.
A testament to Tommy is that having come as an out-and-out winger, 24 from Ulster, by the time he left us, he had played for the Ospreys at 11, 13, 14 and 15. Was capped by the Lions at 13. So that'll tell you the improvement he made as a player. So the versatility, that's a hell of a thing to be able to do, you know, having spent a lot of time on the wing, because in your formative years, Tommy would have been, you know, chasing kicks, hanging up the wing, waiting for the ball. So his learning curve was steep, but he was like a sponge, receptive. The blitz defense is a classic. You look back at his career and how many interception tries, and he's lived off little things like that, which is a massive part of a winger's game. He embraced that, whereas a lot of players, it's a very, at that time, it's a very scary thing to come into a blitz defense, because you're, and it was something I used to say to him a lot, you're 100% right or you're 100% wrong, right? You know, and that's true, you know, so it's all in, and he was the type of personality to accept that.
And I think as well, Sean, 100% right, 100% wrong. But what the big thing is that that's as a whole team. So the thing with the Ospreys is that it was about doing it as a collective. And I didn't sometimes have the confidence to go for it. But when you had Sonny Parker on your inside, or you had Lee Byrne coming up on the outside, you know, they were the sort of crutch that helped me on. And I was a young guy. I was 24 going over there. It was a big move for me to leave Ireland. Very few people left Ireland at that stage, but I knew I wanted to try something different. I wanted to challenge myself, and one of the other, you know, I wanted to get away. There was obviously Leicester Tigers with Jordan Murphy there, but there is, of course, the big thing for Ireland is that if you are out of the country, you're not going to get picked per se. Where I knew at least if I went to the Ospreys, I would be playing against an Irish province once in every 3 or 4 weeks. So for Declan Kidney, who was the coach, it was easy for him to see me because I would be playing against Leinster, Munster, Connacht or Ulster, where if I was playing in Leicester Tigers, he would have to get a flight over just to see me and maybe Jordan Murphy. So in that sense, it kind of worked both ways.
Tommy,
do you think that some of today's players are missing out with that? Because you're right, and it's actually got more stringent now. You have to be Jonathan Sexton to make it work by moving off the island.
Well, you have to be at least 20% better than anybody back in Ireland, because you can't expect to be picked if you're 50-50 with a player back in Ireland, and I think that makes sense. If you're 20, 25 to 30% better and playing out of your skin, and there's no better option in Ireland, then I think
I like the idea of players going at the time you went, though, sort of at 23, 24. You've been around a little while. I mean, you were capped for Ireland pretty young. You know, you've been around a while, but not taking the next step. You went away to take that next step. Someone like Shane Jennings, Leo Cullen, they did the same thing. Just maybe we should be thinking differently in Ireland now. Our player base is now really broad, and we're trying to shuffle them around the provinces. But you know what? Maybe we should be thinking wider.
No, I agree. I actually see a lot of players who are stuck in a backlog in the likes of, you know, Leinster in particular, Munster as well. And they're not going to get an opportunity. They might get one game a month. And when you're 22 to 24, 25, you don't want to be part of the squad. You don't be training every week. You be playing matches. I mean, you play the game because you want to play games. Training was never a part of the game I enjoyed. So I do believe that young guys should take an opportunity, because you'll either sink or swim. And if you go abroad and you go well in another club, it could be the best thing that could ever happen to you. And then all of a sudden the Irish provinces might be delighted to get you back. Look at Chris Farrell. You know, he went to Grenoble and played out of his skin, and he had Joe Schmidt on the phone to him every second week. So it definitely works, but it is a gamble at the same time.
Yeah. Tag Burns, another good example of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, there's a lot of players, the likes of Tadhg, there's a lot of guys pick up injuries, and all of a sudden, if you pick up a few injuries at the wrong time, you fall down the pecking order. And that's clever business by the Scarlets to pick up guys like that. But there's a amount of young players from Leinster who aren't playing much rugby, and I think some of them are so talented. They do so well to get over and get a season or two of rugby under their belts.
Tommy, what was it like going to? I mean, your choices were Swansea or Leicester. I mean, it was going to be a change from what you were used
France,
to.
Is this what you're going to say?
No, well, but it was going to be a change for you as well. And what part of that either scared you or invigorated you? Because again, a lot of the Irish guys, some of them can make it seem like a big deal to go from Dublin to Galway for, it's 2 hours drive. It's the same, there's not much too different. It's just smaller scale. What was going through your mind about actually leaving home and not being, a quick drive away from mum and dad's house and your friends and all that sort of stuff?
Listen, Swansea wasn't really a big worry for me. It was just joining another squad. I actually didn't know any of the Welsh players, any of the Ospreys guys. I remember playing for Ireland against Wales. I just got myself back into the Irish team when it was announced that I was going, and it was actually Gavin Henson and Adam Jones who came over and had a pint of Guinness with me, and that was the first time I'd ever actually sat down and chat to the guys. So I was nervous, like anybody joining a new team, and particularly in rugby, teams are very close knit. They're to try and break into that, and certainly I was leaving behind a very close knit group. A lot of my friends within that Ulster side, we were very, very tight, and I felt I was I was maybe not stabbing them in the back, but maybe, jumping off the ship whenever things weren't going great there. And I know, a lot of them were disappointed in me. So it was a bit of baggage with it, but I wanted an opportunity. I felt I needed a bit of a kick up the ass. I needed to try something different. And, Swansea wasn't that far away, and it turned out it was great because, I had family and friends and all sorts coming over nearly once every 2 or 3 weeks. So, they all loved a night out in Swansea.
And they got the Mumbles Mile, Tommy.
Yeah, it wasn't the Mumbles Mile. It was Wine Street.
Wine Street, yeah.
Was the £12 in, all you can drink was a fairly tasty one for a lot of the Irish people coming over to some of the bars.
Very good.
Paul, what were your tactics for stalking Tommy and the rest of your Ospreys heroes at the time?
Well, I was just going to say, because Tommy, I know he's been a British Lion, but all of that pales into insignificance when you realise you are still, to this day, my mother's favourite player. And
I'm proud of that.
As soon as when she finds out you've been on, she'll be swooning. Yeah, I'm from Gowerton, so the Ospreys are my region, and I used to watch Swansea.
Country, isn't it? Yeah.
Dan Bigger. Yeah, we've had them. Liam Williams from Gowerton, Dan Bigger, Sam Davis. I was the worst genetically, rugby speaking, to come from Gowerton. Ben Whitehouse, the referee. That's right. Gowerton's a breeding ground. But that Osprey squad that you were a part of, it was unbelievable. I mean, they've been voting for it this week, which we're going to touch on later.
Superbly coached.
It was. Well, it was. It's all about the recruitment, Sean. I've always told you that. But you just need to look at the players in that squad and how good they were with the players who weren't picked in that team. Sonny Parker wasn't even mentioned in that all-time Osprey squad. Rhys Webb was nowhere near, and I think that tells you the quality then when you had like Tommy Bowe there, and that just genuine elite world-class players in that backline. And still to this day, Tommy is an Ospreys player to most. Ulster fans won't want to hear that, but he's considered an Osprey by an awful lot of people.
Well,
so it's
brilliant memories there. Some great games, and I see you have the Scarlets behind you there. Those games against the Scarlets, I think in Ireland it's the Munster against Leinster game. It's the big rivalry, the big derby match. Ulster against Leinster is definitely a big one that we feel, but I got a real taste of it whenever I got over there to see the Scarlets against Ospreys. That was feisty, and those are the games I used to love going over to Clonethley and playing and beating them in Boxing Day or at home in the Liberty. Those were games I used to really enjoy, and even now they're the games that the Ospreys supporters want to talk to me about.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. And you know, I was just going to ask one more question. When Sean touched upon, because I always use a term as being like an ultra utility. You know, when you can play 3 positions at test level. Did you ever fancy like moving into full back permanently? Because I know you played at 13 a few times with Sean and for the Lions. But did you ever fancy 15? Because you used to play there quite a lot.
I played a bit when I was younger, but my kicking wasn't good enough. Sean wouldn't pick at me because I didn't have a Lee Byrne torpedo boot. He'd throw me in there for the big games, and I remember he threw me in for that game against Munster and Thomond, and all I got was bombs all day on me. But yeah, I grew up full back with the position I played at underage, but wing was kind of where they stuck me in. And what I loved about wing, unlike 13, I'm 15 to a sense, but the way the Ospreys played and the way I tried to take that back into Ireland was that the wing was a roving role. And I remember Johnny Sexton used to drive him up the wall because he'd swing back, you know, expecting me to be on the wing, and I'd be off at first receiver going the other direction. Yeah. And we used to have some serious fallouts on the pitch over that. But you know, it's the way I played, and I think I owe an awful lot of that to the Ospreys. It was good times, and to try and take that back to Ulster again was something, and to see the likes of Jacob Stockdale and guys coming through to try and encourage them to get involved in the game as much as they can. You know, that's where I tried to influence it when I came back.
Tommy, I don't think we can let you go without Sean filled us in another talent that you developed over in Swansea. And
which one, Sean?
Yeah,
there's so many, but
this is the part of the show where technology will either fail us or delight us. But I'm just going to play in a little bit of audio that Sean has managed to get his hands on. So.
Oh wow! Hopefully it's not the Wine Street one.
Do you remember this?
Yeah. I actually.
Where did it all go wrong, Tommy? Where's the music career?
It sounds it sounded a lot better at the time. I did one for Wine Street, and it was Wine Street Saturday night. Anyway, looking for a fight, and they actually plugged it in. We got them to plug it in the walkabout, and they played it over the whole place.
Oh my God.
It was the best day of my life. Yeah. So that was my one and only hit. When things were going well, sure, it was good to enjoy it. But Sean Holley, mates for life. That's it.
It was my 200th game. My 200th game as Ospreys coach, and I'm down the front of the bus, and maybe these phones weren't as advanced as they are these days. Tommy's got this bit of software on his phone, whatever. He's made this at the back of the bus after the big win or something, and something crops up on my phone. I play it. Sean, what the hell is this? Some DJ has sent me some music. It's Tommy Bowe, but it's very endearing because he says some nice things on there, but not so much about my facial hair. Which, there you go.
Yeah. Well, listen, if some of the Irish supporters remember my singing, it's I think it generally is after a pint or two. I think I have this a great musical tone, but listening to it back, I know I don't.
We might leave Mr. Bowe escape while he has his dignity somewhat intact.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tommy.
Catch up soon, man.
Cheers.
Tell you what, lads.